Welcome, my name is Juanita. Today we are going to be talking about this 1916 Buick Hearse. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, we are named after a gentleman named Stan Reynolds. He was a local businessman and collector. Eventually his collection grew to the point that he couldn't take care of all of it and offered it to the provincial government. They took a portion of Stan's collection and opened this museum. We opened in 1992 as the Reynolds Alberta Museum. We are here with one of Stan's pieces from his original collection, this 1916 Buick Hearse. But before I get to the hearse, let's first of all talk about the Romans. Now the Romans, when they came into Europe and England in the 1st century, they brought a farming implement that we would refer to as a harrow. Here's a picture of a modern harrow. It's pretty simple construction. It's flat on top and the spikes down below, they go into the soil and till or cultivate. As we can see here is a medieval farmer using a harrow being pulled by a horse, so it's tilling and cultivating the field, and a farmer going behind seeding the crop. In the 11th century, the Normans invaded England and brought French words with them. They knew a harrow as a hearse, H-E-R-S-E. When flipped upside down, it reminded them of a candelabra they used in their funerals. So basically it was a platform put on top of a coffin with the spikes facing up and a candle placed on each one for each of the saints. So when the coffin was ready to go to the graveside, everything was placed on a bier, B-E-I-R, which is a cart that would transport the deceased to the graveside. You can see the T-bar handle at the front, and that's where the people would push or pull the bier to the graveside. Originally, people transported the dead. It is interesting to note that this is actually where the slow pace of the funeral procession comes from. It would be fairly heavy to transport this cart and the wooden coffin and the candelabra, but also you've got these candles lit. Last thing you would want is one of the candles to blow out or hot wax flying everywhere. By the 16th century, in England, anything used to transport the coffin from the church to the graveside was referred to as a hearse, H-E-A-R-S-E. So the concept and the word have been around for a long time. They became more and more ornate, thus heavier and heavier, now requiring a bit more horsepower, a bit more muscle power. Enter the horse-drawn hearse. This is an imperial hearse from Austria, definitely ornate, definitely not for the average person. In the next slide, you can see a funeral hearse that would have been used for an average person and used right here in Alberta. This is a horse-drawn funeral coach from the Remington Carriage Museum down in Cardston. We don't know when the first motorized hearse was used, but the first ones were electric. The first gasoline-powered hearse was used in 1909 in the United States. They're about $6,000, so pricier than the horse-drawn version, but definitely had some advantages over a horse-drawn hearse. Thus, by the 1920s, these guys were the norm. So that makes this 1916 hearse a fairly early motorized hearse. However, the professionals prefer to call them funeral coaches. Now there's different types and varieties of these funeral coaches depending on different customs and cultures. Here's a few of my favorites. This first one is a 1924 Lincoln. As you can see, it looks very similar to our 1916. If you're looking for ornate, this one definitely fits the bill. It is a 1932 hearse from Spain. The next one definitely starts looking more like a funeral coach, what we would refer to or what we would think of this is a Cadillac from 1956, is a Landau style is what they would refer to it as. So again, with different customs, cultures, and religions, this next one is a funeral coach from Japan from 1970. Definitely looks different than our North American versions. Stan purchased this funeral coach in 1978 from St. Joseph, Missouri. We know that it was last licensed in Mound City, Missouri in 1922. There's evidence of 2 other license plates at some point. Funeral coaches are specialty vehicles, so the funeral home would have purchased the chassis and then taken it to a coach builder. This was built on a Model D-4 Buick 1-ton truck chassis. We, as of yet, don't know where the body was built. This vehicle needs a lot of TLC if it's going to last another 105 years. The wood is cracking, the curtains are in rough shape, as well as the seat. The seat was tanned with vegetin or vegetable tanning and is susceptible to red rot. There was duct tape also used on the seat as a quick fix and is also deteriorating the leather. So the best we can do is keep it in a stable environment and hope it doesn't deteriorate further. As we saw earlier, hearses come in different shapes and colors. This one too has been painted a couple of times in its life. We see here this sort of beige gray color, and we can see here with some of the paint chips coming off that it was at one point white, and there is evidence that it was at one point a baby blue as well. That may be where the curtains come in. These curtains came with the hearse, but we are not actually sure if they are original to the hearse. They are of the same time period, so it is quite possible. As you can see, it is made of dyed wool, and the cording and the tassel is made of silk. Now the wool was stitched onto cardboard to make it stiff, so that it doesn't fly around, but also to mimic the wood panels on either side. Now for the business end. There's rollers. This would aid you in rolling the coffin into the hearse. And you can also see these little stoppers. These stoppers would be placed to prevent the coffin from sliding around. As you can see, there's different sizes, different shapes. Up above, you see the electric light that would illuminate the coffin. In the past, hearses were not very collectible, so that makes this one very rare and very valuable. If you'd like to see this one in operation, you can visit our YouTube channel, Reynolds AB Museum, scroll down, and you will see Jeff, one of our volunteers, actually run this vehicle at History Road. Well, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully we'll see you here at the museum again soon.